Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, on this triumphant Tuesday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. And we do have some interesting things to share with you indeed during the course of this one. And for those of you that are new to the channel, every single day around 1 p.m. UK time, we drop an update just like this one to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space, but also the broader markets. And we're going to be predominantly focusing on the crypto space during the course of this daily market update. But to give you guys a comment on the broader markets, I want to highlight that it is earnings season. So that means that companies are reporting on their earnings for Q3. This is going to, of course, add a little bit of volatility into the market. I know Ericsson did very well today. It's majorly big banks this week, and then next week you've got things like Tesla and all these other things. But why I've started with this is not only to let people know that that's what's going on right now, so you might see some sort of volatility as a result of it. I think those earnings are going to be more positive than what we've previously seen, perhaps. Just like we're getting more positive economic data. Remember, we don't think a recession is here or really in the sort of shorter term. But why I've started with that is because where I want to start this video off, remember this is going to be quite crypto specific, is with a earnings call from BlackRock. And Larry Fink, of course, gave this earnings call. And we're going to be looking at a tweet from Eric Balanchunas, which has within it the quotes of Larry Fink in regards to him saying Bitcoin is an asset class within itself, how he's talking with worldwide institutions about allocation and the further allocation of crypto, how digital assets remind him of the early days of the mortgage markets, $11 trillion. Now, what he's talking about here isn't mortgages themselves, but the marketization of them, just like what's currently happening is the marketization or the derivatization of the cryptocurrency space, or the monetization, I should say, from Wall Street. And of course, Larry Fink very much leading the charge here. And he talks about how, his views on candidates and how that will affect things, the adoption. He talks about Ethereum and the dramatic increase that it's going to see. He talks about stable coins. He talks about AI and other things. So this is really where I start. I've not seen anybody else covering this, but this is interesting. And it's good for us. We look at price action. We talk about this cycle and things like this. But underpinning all of this, there's a fundamental change to the world that distributed ledgers are truly bringing. Later on today, I'm interviewing somebody that helped get Android to 1 billion users. Now, Android and the blockchain or a layer one is very similar in regards to 1 billion people are going to use probably multiple blockchains without even knowing or really giving too much of a thought about the technology behind it. But we'll go more into that when, of course, the interview is released. So we'll be starting the video off there. Then we're going to be talking about Bitcoins on exchanges. We're going to be looking at the correlation with price. We're going to be doing some interesting things in regards to talking about what's happening right now. Okay, we had the halving. Bitcoin moves in this kind of 4-year cycle theory that's centered around the halving. It also aligns with global liquidity indexes and cycles, business cycles. Did Satoshi know about this? Potentially, and is that why he chose that date? Potentially, very interesting concept. Remember, I don't believe the Satoshi story. I think there's more nefarious intent behind Bitcoin to sort of move us onto this one world currency and to get us familiar with that idea. And I can see comparables in regards to the Federal Reserve Act and Bitcoin. And people think that's crazy. Well, first of all, if you're going to make that comment, you better know how we ended up with the Federal Reserve. And don't be so close-minded in the sense that, okay, how we ended up with the Federal Reserve was, and there was this idea to consolidate banking in certain nations, the US being the example here. And they did that through the Federal Reserve Act. It first went through as the Aldrich Bill, and then they played the opposition and said, okay, we're going to put it in the hands of the people through the government, even though it was not for the people's benefits, but potentially for, and we've seen the result of that in regards to the devaluation of currency that we work so hard for. They're very much playing the good guy card with Bitcoin, although it might be to fulfill agendas from the bad guy. I don't know. Just speculation there. Then we're going to talk about some price action, of course. Bitcoin very much seems to be coming out of its pullback that it's been in since March. This is really going to see the altcoin market accelerate. We're seeing great things when it comes to the altcoin space. We looked at, I think it was 13, 14 or 15 different altcoins yesterday that all have falling wedges, textbook falling wedges that are all going to catapult to the upside. Bitcoin coming off a little bit today. However, I do think you're going to see that acceleration. Then we're going to look at Ethereum and the S&P. So without further ado, let's dive into this tweet. This is Eric Balanchunas. He says, here's a full Larry Fink quote on Bitcoin digital assets from the Q3 earnings call. He says Bitcoin asset class is in itself. So it's an asset class in itself. They're talking with institutions worldwide about allocation. Digital assets remind him of the early days of the mortgage market, now $11 trillion. And POTUS won't make a difference. So he's talking about the election there. Let's dive into this. This is from Larry Fink himself. Well, first, I'm not sure if either president or other candidate would make a difference. So he's talking about the Trump-Harris debate right now. Who's better for crypto? My personal opinion is Trump is. But Harris has came out very sort of forthcoming, whether that's, and it probably most likely is, because it's politics and act or not, is still to be sort of seen. Do they follow through on that, depending on who wins? I do believe the utilization of digital assets are going to become more and more of a reality worldwide. Bullish. Conversations we're having with institutions worldwide, conversations about how should they think about digital assets, what type of asset allocation there should be. I mean, we believe Bitcoin is an asset class in itself. It is an alternative to other commodities like gold. And so I think the application of this form of investment will be expanded to the role of Ethereum. Interesting, as a blockchain that can grow dramatically. Excuse me. So if we can create more acceptability, more transparency, more analytic related to these assets, then we will be expanded. Very interesting. So very bullish on Ethereum. But I truly don't believe it's a function of regulation, of more regulation, less regulation. I think it's a function of liquidity. Remember, you know, and this is why we cover the broader markets in these daily market updates, because they're relevant. And markets really are a function of liquidity, money. And I don't want to go expand on that too much, but Bitcoin is the most correlated asset to liquidity. Altcoins are going to hyper correlate, obviously, to Bitcoin and liquidity. Transparency, and then through that process, no different than when years ago, when we started the mortgage market, years ago when the high yield market occurred, started off very slow, but it built as we built better analytics and data. And then through better analytics and data, more acceptance and a broadening of the market. And I truly believe we will see a broadening of the market of these digital assets. We're talking about more, not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but the space more broadly. And then we'll see how does each and every country look at their own digital currency. This is interesting. Now he's talking about stablecoins, talking about CBDCs. Remember, we're very bullish on XRP and Ripple for this factor alone. So he's really covered the space more broadly, and I think he's putting forward some very bullish views on it. That's a different asset than a Bitcoin in itself. But I do believe that we're going to witness as we build out better analytics. And then the question is, as you mentioned, regulations, how do we see in this country the role of digitalizing the dollar? This is going to come, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it's going to be necessarily in the form of the Fed doing it, but more other companies, and ultimately furthering the dollar's dominance through that. I'm now a believer that crypto isn't going to replace the current monetary system. It's going to revolutionize it and work with it. And what role does that play? That's a very different question related to, let's say, Bitcoin and other items like that. But all of that is going to be under discussion. And what we are witnessing in other countries, we're seeing big success in India, in Brazil, in digitization of their currency of various different reasons. But we believe the technology of these blockchains are going to become very additive. And then you will overlay AI, and having better data analytics and applicability and the broadening of these markets will occur. Very George Orwellian and dystopian, in my opinion, what he's talking about there. He's talking about how I'm very skeptical on Bitcoin's origins and the introduction of blockchain technology. Even though I'm a believer of it, my entire sort of life revolves around it. I can't help but question it. But this was good. I haven't seen anybody else covering this. This is Larry Fink's Q3 earnings report or call. And Ethereum, Bitcoin, front and center stage. This is absolutely fantastic. What I want to do now is dive over to some more fundamental news. This is, or on-chain news, I should say. This is Bitcoin in regards to exchange reserves. And you can see the correlation here. When there's a lot of Bitcoin on exchanges, or when there's an influx of Bitcoin on exchanges, the price is typically going down. And that could be quite explainable in the sense that, well, people are selling, so they're putting it back onto exchanges. There's also an element of the halving here and the supply crunch that's caused. And Bitcoin moves in these 4-year cycles, again, align with business cycles, global liquidity cycles, et cetera, et cetera. Did Satoshi know about this when he sort of figured out what date he was going to put it on? And again, I don't believe in the Satoshi story, so I think undoubtedly whoever came up with it is very smart. But you can see in regards to sort of current reserve ratios, we're at a kind of low point. And during this pullback that we've been in since March, we know that large whales, we know that the ETFs have just accumulated. Meanwhile, what's retail sentiment been? Doom and gloom. I can't stand this anymore. Another low. And in the altcoin market, they've just got thrashed. But they will excel to more of a degree when Bitcoin really raises its head. And I don't think you're too far off that at all, ladies and gentlemen. This is just a pullback in what is a broader trend. It's not going to be long before you start to see all-time highs. Remember, we have that smaller pattern that takes us there that we looked at going into FOMC. And there's lots of broader confluence in regards to the direction we think Bitcoin and crypto is going in. We saw some great moves from some of the sort of crypto stocks. Certainly that mining stock that we have in the Patreon is doing very, very well. Also things like Coinbase doing spectacularly. We go and look at last night's video. We looked at 14 altcoins for nothing else other than to see the positioning of the altcoin sector, whether that's from a sort of market mastery point of view, or whether that's from a sort of individual pattern point of view and what that's now predicting. We've got a lot of confidence in regards to the direction of Bitcoin, whether it's the fact that it's in an uptrend, and you have been in one since January, which is when we got back into the market, whether it's this inverse head and shoulders, whether it's this bull flag, whether it's this sort of cup and handle pattern. Bitcoin is on a broader trajectory. We've shown you what Bitcoin's trajectory really is going to look like. It's going to look like Microsoft. It's going to look like, what's another one here? The DAX. The DAX making its target here is Bitcoin making 150K. You see Bitcoin's in this stage here. It's going to look like Vanex Semiconductors, just to show you that. Let's not go to our 1 to 100x challenge. This is the road Bitcoin has ahead of it. And there's technical patterns that take you there. Talking about Bitcoin equities is Iris Energy, one that we certainly look at and have a technical target for. Lots of small cap stocks actually look quite well, but that's for another video. So Bitcoin looks great. You got the likes of, fundamentally, there's something really sensational going on here with this space. Blockchains are very much going to be, again, I'm interviewing somebody that took Android into 1 billion users. Blockchains will have billions of users also, and we won't even know it. It's a technology that's going to sort of evolve the world in more ways than one. And we get to be early speculators on that. And that's why this channel exists. Ethereum looks great. Ethereum's just really following the same roadmap that we had set out and we were looking at for the S&P. S&P, of course, went on and made a high yesterday. Ethereum's on a similar trajectory. This is very common. You've got your phase 1 base, you break out your retest, and then that continuation. Get ready for what's coming, guys, because if you can take advantage and play this sort of market cycle right, you're going to change your life. Truly, 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 I believe that. And on that positive note, I want to love and leave you. I want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for watching. We do apologize for the slightly different sort of camera angle. However, we'll be back to normal tomorrow. That's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Thanks for watching. See you all in the next one.